Alright, that was a pretty decent shot. And is he going to fire? And of course. So what is going on, guys? It is your boy Garage Gaming here, and today I'm taking out the T26E1 Super Pershing, which is a weird tank in real life and in game. But I'd just like to let you know that this is my first battle, and I found this gun quite incredible in its performance. So first game I took it out thinking, alright, it's going to be slow, and I know from playing the King Tiger that the armor on the front isn't actually as effective as it's advertised to be. So I tried to sit back and play this thing as a sniper. The vehicle's speed and reload rate pretty much force you to do that anyway. This tank pretty much can't brawl, but, you know, quite incredibly, I'm not used to AP shells being effective because I've been playing the magach with the Heat FS. So these AP rounds were incredibly powerful, and I was having so much fun just punching holes in the side of things. Now, it wasn't quite as beastly as the King Tiger's KWK 36, I'm pretty sure it's called. No, sorry, that's a KWK 43. God, I keep getting that mixed up. But yeah, no, the gun is quite incredible on this, and it was actually recommended. I can't remember who did it, who said it, but someone was taking this game into high tier matches and fighting Leopard 1s with it, and it was doing really well, so that was an option. I can't remember which YouTuber did that. Fuck. Well, anyway, so this tank, just keep in mind the background footage is my first game, so I was playing rather cautiously, but yeah, this tank has a rather interesting story, which I would like to share with you right now. So, back in the middle of World War II, the US Army's mainstay tank was the Sherman, of which they could pretty much transport and fight with it anywhere. It was incredibly versatile. However, when it came to anti-tank capabilities, the 75 and later 76mm gun kind of lacked. So the United States developed the M26 Pershing, which was essentially back then a heavy tank, later redesignated as a medium tank, equipped with a 90mm gun. This tank was capable of fighting the Tiger I and the Panther. However, the US encountered problems, seeing as the Germans developed the King Tiger with its KWK 43. So they were struggling to utilise the Pershing against the King Tiger simply because the 90mm gun, you know, wasn't really making the cut when it came to penetrating the front of the armour. So the solution was this gun. This gun is known as the T26E1, and it was to be the answer to the German KWK 43. The gun was quite ridiculously long, as you can see on my vehicle. It is 73 calibers in length, which is, if you don't know what a caliber is on a gun, essentially the caliber is the diameter of the gun barrel of the bore, and then multiplied by the length of the barrel. So if you were to take the length of the gun barrel in meters, I'm pretty sure, and divide it by 73, you would get 90mm. This gun was very high velocity. I mean, in game, I'm pretty sure it's got a muzzle velocity of just under 1,000 meters per second with the AP rounds. With APCR, it could get up to about 1,100, I'm pretty sure. So it was quite powerful. I'm pretty sure the gun is nearly or is twice as long as the base 90mm gun on the Pershing. So yeah. Funnily enough, the vehicle we have in the game is actually the so-called up-armoured Frankenstein version of the tank. You see, the original Super Pershings looked basically just like a normal Pershing tank, just with a much longer gun. However, some experiments were done due to the fact that, you know, these tanks were basically Pershings, Pershing tanks just with longer guns. So essentially you've just got these, you know, they're more powerful, but they don't have the armour to withstand the King Tiger, just the gun capable of dealing with it. So these tanks were sent over to Europe in 1945 as part of the 3rd Armoured Division, and the Chief of Tank Repair Services, Major Harrington, didn't really want these tanks to get knocked out because they were basically just Pershing tanks with longer guns. So Lieutenant Belton Cooper decided that it would be a good idea to, you know, up-armour these vehicles. So one of the ways he did it is he took the plate, the frontal plate of a Panther, so the 80mm plate. I'm pretty sure that would be the upper front plate, and he welded it straight onto the mantlet of the vehicle. So he put in a hole for the gun, the optics, and the coaxial machine gun. And yeah, that was basically his solution. He took a bunch of plates and covered the front of the hull with it, so that's why the hull has those additional plates on the front. And then later on, one vehicle in particular got these ears on the side, which you can see on this vehicle that we have now. So it's funny because the correct Super Pershing, because there are about 20 built, I'm pretty sure, the correct Super Pershing is just a regular Pershing with a much larger gun. This vehicle is, of course, the Frankenstein, which had the extra plates added to the front. Oh, and also the back of the turret. See that large sort of box thing? That is a counterweight for the gun. Of course, due to all this extra frontal armor, the front suspension sags down quite significantly, so that's something else to mention as well. Now, it's weird because this tank that I'm driving now, which we'll just continue to call it the Frankenstein, was only ever recorded to have been in action twice. The first place took place between Versa and Nordheim, where it destroyed an unidentified armoured target. That's all the writing has to say about it. The second action is controversial because many people don't believe this actually happened, at least the way that the crewmen believe it happened. So, near Dessau, the 3rd Armoured Division advanced, and the tank was engaged by what many people believe to be a King Tiger. Now, apparently the King Tiger fired at the vehicle, the shell ricocheted, and then the Super Pershing fired its 90mm gun at the lower plate of the King Tiger. The turret popped off and exploded, and everyone went home happy. A lot of people believe that is bullshit, just a propaganda story, mainly because there was no King Tiger units nearby, and knowing the German army, well, technically it was an SS unit, that was the closest one, and it was 70 miles away or something like that. So, knowing the Germans, I doubt that they would have an operational King Tiger away from any kind of major unit, at least not until the later stages of the war. So, I believe that this story was probably a fabrication. It was probably a Panther, or maybe even, some people reckon it was just a Panther 4. But these are the only 2 combat occasions of which this sort of Frankenstein tank appeared in. Nevertheless, it is quite clear that the gun would have been extremely capable of dealing with pretty much any German armour, and while it still would have been vulnerable to the King Tiger's large caliber gun, despite the efforts to up-armour it, this thing would pretty much be immune to any other form of German gun, at least frontally. I'm looking at you, KWK36, on the Tiger 1, and funnily enough, in about a second I'm going to be engaged by a Tiger 1 from the front, and he's pretty much helpless. He cannot do anything to my armour, and I can just punch straight through his tank like it was made of butter. Of course, I completely donked that shot just there, but I mean, it was my first game in this vehicle, so I didn't really know what I was doing much, so yeah. Well, that's the interesting history about this heavy tank, or sort of a heavy tank, because the M26 was designated as a heavy tank back when it was introduced. So, to me, these are interesting vehicles, because these are just, basically, it's like what the British did with the Sherman Firefly, just taking an existing tank, putting a much better gun in it. In-game, it plays a bit funny. You are the slow sniper. You can't really do too much when it comes to a brawl. Obviously, against a Tiger 1, you're immune to his gun, so that doesn't really matter too much, but if you're brawling with a King Tiger who can reload in about 8 or 9 seconds, you're really going to have a lot of trouble. The main thing that holds you back is the base reload of like 15 seconds on this vehicle. Other than that, though, the gun is extremely accurate. You can do things like this. Like, it's just incredible how powerful AP shells are now. So, yeah, it appears that's about it. Honestly, the vehicle's quite sluggish unless you're on a paved road. You've got a roof-mounted 50 cal, which works wonders if you know how to aim them. Unfortunately, I do not. Unless a plane is coming directly at me, I seem to just not be able to hit it. After the war, this vehicle didn't really have much impact. It was pretty much put into scrap yards. It was already a variation of a vehicle that itself was reaching obsolescence. I mean, to compare the M26 to the Centurion would be laughable. However, eventually they did take the M26 and develop it onto the M46 pattern, which is, America's medium tank throughout the Cold War up until the end. So, there are maybe some contributing factors, I'm not sure, but this vehicle pretty much remained irrelevant after that until, you know, Wargaming and Gaijin decided to put it into their video games. So yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. It has been your boy Gaijin Gaming, and I'll catch you guys next time.